And probably that's why the majority of the people always love to watch Seve Ballesteros playing on the golf course.
It was unbelievable. You know, the guy, he appealed to the simplest farmer's daughter to royalty.
The minute you met Seve, he was this handsome young man, eyes that were very piercing, and you felt, well, this guy's got a passion.
He's the best ever. Those words meant something different coming from Seve Ballesteros. This was a man who changed golf forever, a man who turned European golf into a world power. When Seve spoke about other players, people listened. He passed away in 2011 at just 54 years old. But before he left us, he showed us who mattered most to him. 4 players stood out in his heart. 4 men who either amazed him, partnered with him, or carried his torch forward. Today we look at those 4 players: Phil Mickelson, Johnny Miller, José María Olazábal, Jack Nicklaus. Each one tells us something about who Seve really was. Phil Mickelson never forgot meeting Seve. It was 1988 in San Diego. Phil was just an amateur playing his first PGA Tour event. He was nervous, he was excited, and there was one player he wanted to meet more than anyone else: Seve Ballesteros. Seve was the guy Phil wanted to play a practice round with the most. Someone arranged it. The 2 men walked the course together. For Phil, it was like meeting his hero. But what happened next changed his life. From that day on, he couldn't have been nicer to me. That's what Phil remembered most. Not the shots, not the fame, the kindness. We had a great round of golf. He showed me a few things, showed me a few shots. This was more than a meet and greet. This was a lesson. The master was teaching the student. Phil Mickelson became one of golf's great entertainers. People called him a great crowd pleaser, and he said Sev was one of the biggest influences on his career. Phil loved the same things Sev loved: the risk, the artistry, the excitement. He was just exciting to watch. That's what Phil said about Seve. Sev's approach is exactly what I loved about Sev. Phil wasn't just copying Sev. He was continuing his legacy. The go for broke attitude, the creative shots, the recovery magic. I loved the recovery shot. Nobody had more of them, and nobody pulled them off more than Seve. Phil understood what made Seve special. It wasn't playing perfect golf, it was making art from disaster. Because of the way he played the game of golf, you were drawn to him. You wanted to go watch him play. That 1988 practice round planted a seed. Phil would go on to win majors. He would entertain millions. He would hit shots that made no sense, but somehow worked. Just like Seve, the recovery shot became Phil's trademark too, hitting from trees, from bushes, from places where balls shouldn't even land. Phil loved those moments because Seve loved those moments. When other players groaned at a bad lie, Phil smiled, just like his hero did. Critics said Phil's aggressive style cost him tournaments. Maybe they were right, but Phil didn't care. He wanted to play like Sev. He wanted to make people feel something. That's what Phil took from that practice round in 1988. Not just technique, not just shot making, but philosophy. A way of seeing the game that made it bigger and more beautiful. In 2011, Seve was dying. Brain cancer was taking him away. Phil was the defending champion at the Masters that year. At the Champions Dinner on Tuesday night, Phil honored the 3-time Green Jacket winner with a special menu featuring Spanish cuisine. It was a tribute from student to master. I just want him to know we all wish he was here, and we are thinking about him. Phil said those words with real emotion. 1 month later, Seve was gone, but the torch had been passed. But before Sev could inspire the future, he had to win over the past. In 1976, Sev was just 19 years old. He was playing in his second Open Championship at Royal Birkdale. The tournament was supposed to be about the established stars: Johnny Miller, Jack Nicklaus, the American Giants. Instead, a young Spanish kid stole the show. Johnny Miller was the reigning Open champion. He was at the peak of his powers. He was paired with Sev for the final 2 rounds. Miller expected to dominate. He didn't expect to be distracted. He was getting big headlines. A good-looking guy, flashy, an interesting follow-through, and just sort of a dashing player. That's how Miller remembered it. He was like a breath of fresh air, and I was sort of caught up in really watching him. Think about that. Johnny Miller, one of the best players in the world, was watching his playing partner instead of focusing on his own game. Seve had that effect on people. His style was magnetic. His creativity was impossible to ignore. Miller won the tournament. He shot a brilliant final round 66. He won by 6 shots. But nobody remembers Miller's victory. They remember Sev, the 19-year-old who played with flair and passion, the kid who hit a legendary chip and run between 2 bunkers on the 18th hole. That chip shot became famous. It showed everything about Sia: the creativity, the courage, the flair. Most players would have played safe. Chip it out, make bogey, move on. Seve saw a different shot. A shot between the bunkers, a shot that required perfect touch and nerve. He pulled it off. The crowd went wild. Miller watched it happen. He was supposed to be the story. He was the defending champion. He shot 66 in the final round. He won by 6 shots. That should have been enough. But Sev overshadowed him. Miller wasn't upset. He was impressed. Seve finished tied for second. He didn't win. But he won something bigger. He won hearts. He won attention. He proved that European golf could compete with American power. Miller said Sev stole the show. Coming from a champion, that meant everything. Sev's youthful exuberance and swashbuckling style captivated the galleries. They had never seen anything like it. Golf was supposed to be quiet and controlled. Sev was was loud and free. That 1976 Open was a turning point, not because of who won, but because of who arrived. Seve Ballesteros announced himself to the world, and the world paid attention. And he wasn't just impressing rivals, he was changing minds, even legends. Jack Nicklaus tied for second with Seve at that 1976 Open. It was the first time the Golden Bear had ever seen the young Spaniard play. Nicklaus was golf's greatest champion. He had won more majors than anyone. He played target golf, strategic, methodical, perfect. Seve played the opposite way. He played from instinct, from creativity, from chaos. And Nicklaus was fascinated. Nicklaus expressed wonderful respect for Seve's ability and the flair he brought to the sport. This was huge. The greatest player in history was praising a 19-year-old unknown. Nicklaus saw something special. He was mesmerized by Seve's mind. He lauded his creativity, his imagination, and his desire to compete. Nicklaus understood that Seve was playing a different game, a game based on invention. He was able to create shots, invent shots, and play shots from anywhere. Nicklaus said that in his tribute. He remembered Seve's famous 1979 Open victory at Royal Lytham. Seve played one shot from a temporary car park on the 16th hole. Most players would panic. Seve made magic. Nicklaus recalled watching Seve hit one-irons out of greenside bunkers when just fooling around. That wasn't normal. That was genius. Nicklaus joked that Seve could get up and down out of a garbage can. It was funny. It was also true. The 1979 Open at Royal Lytham proved Seve's genius. He hit his tee shot on the 16th hole into a temporary car park. Not the rough, not a bunker, a parking lot. Most players would be furious. Seve just figured out the shot. He hit it close. He made par. He won the tournament. Nicklaus heard about it and loved it. That was Seve, making the impossible look routine. For Nicklaus, Seve's genius was adapting the inventive shots he learned as a boy in Pedreña to the world's most sophisticated courses. Seve grew up poor in Spain. He taught himself golf on the beach. He learned to be creative because he had to be, and that creativity became his superpower. The Golden Bear became a confirmed fan. He recognized that Seve's record, his charisma, his passion were great for the game. Nicklaus could have been jealous. He could have dismissed Seve's style as reckless. Instead, he celebrated it. Two American legends, Miller and Nicklaus. Both were captivated by Seve in 1976. Both validated his approach. Seve's flashy, dashing style wasn't a gimmick. It was a revolution. He gave Europe a new identity, an identity built on joy and artistry. Seve earned their respect, but one man gave him something even deeper: trust. José María Olazábal broke into tears on May 7, 2011. He was on the practice range at the Open de España. The news had just come. Seve Ballesteros was dead. Olazábal wasn't just losing a friend, he was losing a brother. Their bond started years earlier. My first memory of Seve goes back to 83 or 84. Olazábal said that. I was an amateur and he called me to play in a charity event. It was a big surprise and I was very excited. Seve was already a superstar. He didn't have to reach out to a young unknown, but he did. That was who Seve was. Together, they became the Spanish Armada. They were Seve's greatest partner in matches against the United States. Their Ryder Cup partnership was unstoppable. They played 15 matches together. They won 11. They lost only 2. They halved 2. That's 12 points from 15 matches. In 1987, they won 4 matches. They beat Larry Nelson and Payne Stewart. They beat Curtis Strange and Tom Kite. They were on fire. In 1989, they won 3 more matches, including a crushing 6-5 victory over Lanny Wadkins and Payne Stewart. They kept winning in 1991 and 1993. The Americans couldn't stop them. The Spanish Armada rolled through the best players America had: Fred Couples, Raymond Floyd, Paul Azinger, Davis Love III. None of them could beat Seve and Olazábal together. But the numbers don't tell the real story. What impressed most in Seve was his strength, his fighting spirit, and the passion he put into everything he did. That's what Olazábal said. Not the talent, not the wins, the heart. Jack Nicklaus agreed. He called Seve probably the most passionate Ryder Cup player that we've ever had. Nicklaus said Seve was Europe's emotional and spiritual leader, the heart and soul of their team. His teammates always rallied around him and that passion of his. Seve transformed the Ryder Cup. Before Seve, it was a friendly exhibition. America usually won. It was polite. It was boring. Seve made it fierce. He made it passionate. He made it matter. His infectious enthusiasm helped the European Tour flourish between 1976 and 1996. Sponsors wanted to be part of the flair and excitement he brought to the game. Seve wasn't just winning. He was building something bigger. Olazábal visited Seve in the Saturday after the 2011 Masters. It was just weeks before Seve died. He was not well, but his head was clear. The two friends talked. We talked about many things. So many common memories, and particularly about the Ryder Cup. Even at the end, Seve was thinking about the Ryder Cup. It defined him. The passion, the competition, the brotherhood. That conversation was the last time they spoke. Olazábal never forgot that visit. Seve was weak. His body was failing, but his mind was clear. They talked about their matches, their wins, their battles, the times they stood together against the Americans and refused to lose. Those memories meant everything. Seve had fought so hard. 4 operations, 3 years of treatment. The tumor was the size of 2 golf balls. He never complained. He faced death the same way he faced a difficult shot, with courage, with determination, with that famous Spanish Fire. 1 year later, Olazábal became captain of the 2012 European Ryder Cup team. Europe was losing. They were down badly going into Sunday. It looked hopeless, but something happened. The team rallied. They pulled off one of the greatest comebacks in sports history, the miracle at Medina. After the victory, Olazábal explained what happened. Our team played in the spirit of Seve without ever giving up. There it was, Seve's fighting spirit. Even in death, he inspired them. The Spanish Fire still burned. Seve didn't just play the game, he gave it emotion, color, and soul. Tiger Woods once said, Seve was one of the most talented and exciting golfers to ever play the game. George O'Grady, who ran the European Tour, said something even bigger. He was the inspiration behind the European Tour, not just a player, the inspiration. Seve died after fighting brain cancer for 3 years. He collapsed at Madrid's airport in 2008. He had 4 operations to remove a tumor the size of 2 golf balls. He fought with the same flair, passion, and fierce determination that defined his career. But cancer doesn't care about fighting spirit. When he died, the Open de España put his name on the scoreboards. They flew flags at half-mast. Every player wore black ribbons. Olazábal said playing on was the greatest honor I could give Seve, so he played through tears. Seve won 87 titles worldwide. He won 50 on the European Tour alone. Nobody has more. He won 3 Opens in 1979, 1984, and 1988. He won 2 Masters in 1980 and 1983. 5 majors total. Those are the facts. But his legacy isn't in the numbers. It's in the people he touched. Phil Mickelson learned that golf could be art. Johnny Miller saw that passion could compete with power. Jack Nicklaus discovered that imagination mattered as much as strategy. José María Olazábal felt what it meant to have a brother in battle. Seve changed golf in ways that went beyond wins. He made the European Tour matter. Before Seve, top European players dreamed of playing in America. After Seve, Americans wanted to play in Europe. He flipped the script. He gave a continent pride. Young European players watched Seve and thought they could win too. He opened doors. He proved that you didn't need to be American to be great. You didn't need perfect technique. You just needed courage and creativity. Through these 4 men, we see who Seve really was. Mickelson shows us Seve the teacher. Miller shows us Seve the revolutionary. Nicklaus shows us Seve the artist. Olazábal shows us Seve the warrior. Seve played golf the way others couldn't. He created shots that didn't exist. He hit recovery shots from impossible places. He won from a car park. He could get up and down from a garbage can. His creativity and inventiveness on the golf course may never be surpassed. Tiger Woods said that, and Tiger knew greatness. Seve gave European golf an identity. Before him, Europe was the little brother. After him, Europe was equal. He inspired a continent. He changed a culture. He made golf exciting. They don't make them like Seve anymore, and that's why he still burns bright. The Spanish Fire never went out. It lives in every player who tries an impossible shot, every player who smiles under pressure, every player who fights when losing, every player who remembers that golf is supposed to be fun. Seve Ballesteros was elected to the World Golf Hall of Fame in 1999. He earned it, but his real Hall of Fame is in the memories of those who watched him play. Miller couldn't look away. Nicklaus became a confirmed fan. Olazábal played in his spirit. Mickelson inherited his philosophy. 4 players, 4 perspectives, 1 legend. Seve Ballesteros showed us what golf could be. Not just a game of numbers and strategy, but a game of heart and imagination. A game where anything was possible if you were brave enough to try. These 4 men tell us something deeper. They show us that Seve wasn't just a great player. He was a great person. Phil never forgot his kindness. Miller couldn't stop watching him. Nicklaus celebrated his differences. Olazábal wept at his loss. That's the mark of someone special. Seve could have been arrogant. He was that good. He could have ignored young players. He could have dismissed rivals. He could have played it safe. Instead, he was generous. He was kind. He took risks. He showed people what was possible. When he died on May 7th, 2011, the golf world stopped. Scoreboards carried his name. Flags flew at half-mast. Players wore black ribbons. Olazábal cried on the practice range. The silence was profound because everyone knew golf had lost something irreplaceable. He's the best ever. When people said that about Seve, they weren't just talking about wins. They were talking about the way he made them feel. The joy, the excitement, the hope. Seve proved that being different was better than being perfect. His legacy lives on. Every time a player takes a risk. Every time someone hits a crazy recovery shot. Every time Europe wins the Ryder Cup with passion and fire. That's Seve. Still inspiring. Still fighting. Still the Spanish Fire that changed golf forever.